I'm Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book, and we're going to be talking about Superman issue 37 from DC Comics. This is chapter 5 in the Men of Tomorrow storyline, written by Jeff Johns and drawn by John Romita Jr. I've got some thoughts on this, Jason. I actually wasn't that thrilled with the story in this issue. I have some problems with it, but I want to get your thoughts on it too before I say more.
Well, I just read it and I thought like there wasn't a lot going on in it, but I wouldn't say I thought this was going to happen, but I knew some sort of big shakeup would happen. Um, I thought maybe I didn't think something like this would happen so fast in the story. It seemed to take kind of a big turn fast here. I did kind of like the setup. I don't know if I like the ending of it, and we'll definitely just kind of have to see what happens next.
I would say it was not only a fast turn, like you said. To me, I kind of got this whiplash feeling of like a turn and then another turn and then another turn. Like I kind of feel like now with Ulysses, he's kind of all over the place.
Mm,
I think it's interesting to have a character like Ulysses and have him kind of going through some emotional turmoil. He's kind of trying to decide his path, which I think, can make a good story. But now I feel like with this issue, he's kind of just like flip-flopping around too much for me. Like he was going one way, and then there was this turn where he's like, "Oh wait, now I'm against kind of humanity," and then I don't think Earth is worth saving, so now I'm going to pull people this way. Now I'm going to flip, and then within this issue, he flips back to save the humans, then he flips back to be against the humans, and like to me, he's kind of just like bouncing around too much in the wind.
yeah.
Uh, Maybe that's his character, but for me, I was kind of like I felt a little divested from the story because now I felt like it was kind of flipping around too much.
Yeah, for me, like I thought, we're going to obviously talk about what happens in the story here. We're not worried about spoilers, right? Like the planet exploding and things, and like all these people dying. I know they're trying to make it like a parallel, to Superman maybe somehow, but that just seems like really a huge amount of destruction for not a lot of reason. I thought.
That was a lot of destruction, and I feel like Jeff Johns sort of jerked us around with the timeline for it because
Mm,
he kind of like set this little clock ticking down of, Ulysses' planet only has this long until it's gonna, the core is gonna explode or whatever.
right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, nope, it's sped up. Now it's gonna blow up right now.
Yeah, yeah,
I feel
exactly.
like narratively, once you set that clock, I feel like you need to do something different if you're gonna speed up the clock like that. And then, yeah, it was a lot. I also felt like with the story, like Superman was very constrained because he was
Mm,
literally locked up for most of it,
yeah.
and so it was hard to get any kind of like dynamics in the blocking or the story,
Mm.
the physicality of the story that was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
didn't mind that if it ended a different way. Like, I really thought it was going to end
mhm.
with Superman like busting out of that thing and stopping this from happening. So
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of threw us for a loop. A lot of the different things, and I
Mhm.
really think that like reading this as a collected edition is going to be quite a different experience than reading it month to month, and hopefully it
Mhm.
pays off in the end.
Yeah, one thing, so reading it when it's collected, I'll be curious to follow the parent emotions, like so Ulysses and his Earth parents.
Hmm.
Because I remember in the previous issues saying that I really liked those emotional moments, and I thought Jeff Johns did a good job of weaving those through the first chapters,
Yeah.
really setting up a bond between Ulysses and his Earth parents.
Hmm.
And in this issue, that becomes very important because the Earth parents become kind of this whole linchpin for Ulysses, like changing his mind and then trying to save the humans.
Hmm.
But for me, I still wasn't really buying it, and like this is one of those rare issues where like I wasn't really on board with Jeff Johns' creative decisions. Usually, I really like
Hmm.
him, but I didn't really buy the parents being the reason because if it was really just the parents, Ulysses would have just gone and plucked them out and saved them and sent everybody else down to the core.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
there wasn't if the parents were the whole motivation, there's no reason that you had to extend that to all 6 million. He could have just saved his parents. So
Totally. Yeah.
and then because of that, he ends up like destroying his whole planet. Like to me, it wasn't quite like working. I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely all over the place, and I don't know, like if maybe because like if Superman had busted out and stopped this from happening, and he
Hmm.
had Ulysses had one of these moments like, oh, what did I do? That could have been the end of the whole story. So
Hmm.
maybe like DC or whatever decided to make it a longer arc, and they had to extend the story. I don't know, but it definitely
Yeah.
seems. disjointed. And I mean, the artwork was good, like the scenes of power and like stuff with the John Romita stuff, as we talked about before, wasn't as rushed as some others, and it did suit the storytelling. But it's kind of funny then when things were clicking on that front, then the story wise wasn't really great in this issue.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on the art. So, I mean, for me, it was kind of like how my relationship with John Romita Jr. is played out in this issue. There's
Yeah,
some panels where I was like really kind of blown away. Some of the ones you referred to really showing the energy and some of the bigger kind of panels.
yeah,
I thought looked really, really cool. A few panels where I was like a little bit unimpressed. I think overall I'm not really a huge John Romita Jr. fan, but
hmm
I do like his art because I'm always kind of looking forward to those really cool panels that are going
yeah,
to really stand
exactly.
out.
The ones that stand out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. So, do you know at all what's coming next with Mena tomorrow? I feel like I saw somewhere out there that it's maybe is it six? There might just be one more, or
Maybe
maybe
that's it. I mean, to me, it seems like it's been longer than that. But I mean, if they're going to wrap it all up in one issue, the only way they can kind of save face is that maybe it's some ridiculous thing where really his planet didn't blow up. And then that just seems silly, too. So I really have no idea what they're going to do. And
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like too bad because it really started out really strong and had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
potential, you know?
Yeah, I thought it had more potential than it's actually played out for. I've
Hmm.
still generally enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
I'll definitely follow it through to see how they do kind of wrap it up. But I think issue 3 and now issue 5, like for me, and it sounds like for you too, were kind of like not home runs.
No,
So
exactly. I really it have to be like a crazy awesome finish the next issue or whenever it ends
mhm.
to kind of bring it back onto track. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I still think it's interesting to have the Ulysses as a new character in the Superman book. So I think it's nice to still bring around new characters instead of just trying to do everything by like rebooting previous characters. But
Yeah.
I feel like Jeff Johns a little bit fumbled Ulysses here in this issue.
The only thing I could think of that could redeem this is if they're trying to make Ulysses to be like a complete badass adversary for Superman, and then his lynched, like the thing that he'll always blame Superman for is for the death of his entire planet. That could make a really compelling case for a villain, but
Hmm.
I don't know if we needed this whole story arc to get there. But mind you, maybe that really is making you sympathize with this guy before he turns
Hmm.
to a bad guy. Who knows?
I think those are some good ideas. I'm not sure it was executed perfectly, but I think
Yeah.
you're right. That could be a really cool outcome to have like for Ulysses into the future.
Yeah, maybe that'll
So,
save for some interesting storylines, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens next.
yeah. All right. Well, Jason, thanks for talking with me about Superman 37.
Hey, anytime.